Dr. Carole's Couch. I'm your psychiatrist host, Dr. Carole Lieberman. Well, today we're going to be talking about a very interesting and relevant topic, putting ice on ice. And the first ICE is the abbreviation for the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement Group, ICE, of course, and the tough time they are having trying to get illegal immigrants out of our country. And today, my guest is a perfect person to be talking about this. Her name is Lee Wam. Let me Lee Wamgans, and she is the Chief of Communications Officer of Patriot Mobile. She's also the founding board member and executive director of Patriot Mobile Action, which is the PAC part of it. She was named in 2022 one of the top 5 power players in North Texas. She's been a tireless leader in conservative politics for over 30 years. She also she co-founded and is president and board member of the South Lake Families PAC, which brought awareness to a nationwide issue of critical race theory. So I would like to talk about that a little later on too. I think she has many others. She's been on all kinds of shows, Fox and Friends and Shannon Bream and so on. All the typical Steve Bannon's War Room, Charlie Kirk, all the typical conservative shows that you might expect. And so welcome to the show, Lee.
Thank you, Dr. Carole. Pleasure to be here.
And this, of course, is a fascinating subject. I mean, I've been incredibly frustrated, as I'm sure you have too, with the whole situation of the border being putting out welcome mats, basically, the southern and northern border. People think about and talk about the southern border, but we also have problems on our northern border. And in fact, we're getting to have more problems there because of being more aware and more careful and having more ICE at the southern border. So now they're coming in the back door. And this is a problem in so many different ways. So I admire you doing the work that you do to try to fix this problem. So why don't you start with, I always love to ask people how they got into the place that they're in. You know, how is it? I mean, whether it's somebody wrote a book or they're like you, active in founding these organizations and so on. How how did little Lee, little girl Lee, um, end up doing this?
So during my undergrad in college, one of my political beats, I was going for an undergrad in oral communications and broadcasting, and no one else wanted to do the political beat. So I took that at my college station. Then my first television job out of college was the same thing. No one on the western slope of Colorado was interested in politics, whereas I just became kind of a political geek. And everything from covering county commissioner meetings to the state house. During that time, I met our state house majority leader, who then tapped me. He then became our congressman on the western slope of Colorado, and then he tapped me for his reelection campaign in 1994. So I started doing that and went to work for his, after he won, went to work in his district office during the Republican Revolution, and was recruited to Texas in 1996 to run a different congressional election. So I guess it's just, since my 20s, been in my veins. And I see that the good and the bad that can be done with politics. And I've just been at it ever since.
Now, in your original radio, college, and then television, Colorado, I mean, I don't know what it was like then, but it's a very strange place. And probably it was strange back then too, as far as, well, now it's more Democrat.
Very blue.
Uh-huh.
Very blue. When I lived there, I lived in a very red district. We we still considered it a purple state, but it would go red. When I moved to Texas in 96, pretty much thereafter, there is a book called The Colorado Blueprint, and the Democrats literally wrote a book about
Huh.
how they turned Colorado blue.
Huh. That's interesting. Um, well, let's hope nobody let's hope nobody reads it.
Well,
Um,
I think that people on our side have read it as well now, and we've gotten a lot smarter since
well,
1996.
yes, yes, there's that. Okay, and so now how did you particularly get involved in the border issue?
Well, I think every Texan is involved in the border issue. We see it firsthand. I live in Tarrant County, which is the largest red county in the nation, with almost 2.4 million people. We're larger than 15 states. So keeping Tarrant County red is critical to keeping Texas red, and Texas staying red is critical to those 40 electoral votes. You won't have a Republican president without keeping Texas red.
Hmm.
So I hit the ground running in 96 when I was recruited here to run that congressional election and have run campaigns, mostly volunteer ever since. I still do a lot of volunteer campaign work, in the wee hours of the morning as well.
Wow. And Lee and I realized before the show began that we were both at the Texas Ball at
Yes.
the Tux and Boots. What was it called? Black tie and boots ball.
Yes, and it was Boots and Bling.
Uh-huh. Yes, it was at the inauguration. It was a lot of fun. It was big like Texas. There were so many people
Huge.
there. And it was great entertainment and so on. It was really good. Okay, but you were sorry, I kind of interrupted with the ball, to ask you about how you got involved. Like why do you have a special interest? Well, of course, Texas, you know, in the news recently, there's been something about all the measles cases in Texas.
Hmm.
And I thought to myself, that's exactly one of the reasons why we have to get illegal aliens out, because some of these illnesses that in America we took care of with vaccines or with all just maybe in some cases antibiotics, just different things that other countries who aren't as advanced haven't gotten rid of. And so here's this epidemic of measles where there hasn't been an epidemic of measles in ages.
Well, in so many things, tuberculosis is a big thing coming over the border with folks, and our population has been for the large majority immune to a lot of these things for many years, and it's very concerning. What's coming over. We certainly are aware that illegal immigration is a way to get biological warfare over our border and into our mainstream communities, and there's just so many problems with it. America created this industrial human trafficking complex by opening our border during the Biden administration. And I will tell you, just yesterday, Tom Homan did a great tweet. I have it right here. He said in the last 24 hours, the U.S. Border Patrol has encountered a total of 229 aliens across the entire southwest border. That's
Oh,
down from 11,000 a
wow.
day during the Biden
Wow.
administration. And while Texas did some gallant efforts, shortly after Biden took office, our state regulators and legislators saw what was happening at the border and they created Operation Lone Star. And Governor Abbott has talked about a lot of success. They've in this Operation Lone Star, Texas legal authorities have seized over 600 billion doses of fentanyl, and this is legal, that the levels that could kill you. That's enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in America,
Wow.
Mexico, and Canada. So
Huh.
that's something Texas did while the Biden administration had those open borders. And I know that we're all really happy about winning the election, and we're all really happy about what President Trump is doing at the border. But what I need to tell you is this has just begun. It's going to take a while to undo the damage that was done to us. We have tens of millions of illegal immigrants that have just flown over our border, and 11 million counted in Texas alone. That's not including the gotaways. I think it's closer, definitely closer to 50 million. And it's going to take a while to undo this. And right now, what the Borders Our Homeland is dealing with is these sanctuary cities, and I love how he's standing up to them.
Yes, yes, yes. I love, when he does interviews or even in print, they have pictures of him, standing there like Mr. Clean.
Yes,
Kind
it's
of
great.
reminds me of
It's
Mr.
great.
Clean, like, with his muscles and strong and all that. Like, you don't mess with him. Um, so, I mean, there's so many different ways in which this, well, I want to go back to something that you said, the industrial human trafficking complex. Could you explain that more? What
Well,
do you mean by that?
The Biden-Harris open border policies created that. And if you want to talk about what's the most compassionate thing that we can do for migrants, that is to close the border. We are a country of immigrants, but we're a country of legal immigrants. We believe in legal immigration. It is the illegal open border policies that have created this. And we see it firsthand when our people went down there. Our chief marketing officer is this big kind of man's man, when he was telling us the stories of what he saw with his own eyes when he was down there. And I don't know if your viewers know what rape trees are, but they are trees that the cartel, after they rape young men and boys and women, they hang their undergarments on the trees as a message to, don't cross us because this is what we'll do. And they do this to make their victims, docile and not fight back. And he saw one of these. And on one of these was not only women's adult looking underwear, but child's underwear and even a bloody diaper. These are the animals that are attacking people. And we've created this by our open borders.
Wow. So, but okay, but what do you mean? Why are you calling it industrial human trafficking
Because
complex?
when anything is on a widespread and it is a huge organized crime situation going on our border, it's very organized. So it's very industrial. When you think about an industrial revolution, you think about corporations and free market and, creating business. We have created a business by
I,
allowing free flow
I
over our
see.
borders.
Yeah.
And those open borders are just dangerous to not only Americans, but to the migrants as well.
Yes. Yes. I understand what you mean. Um, the so there is a huge so already, but okay, but when we come back, we're gonna have to take a break in a few minutes. But so I want to talk about, well, first of all, I live in California. And I'm from New York, but I live in California. New York isn't much better in terms of all the illegal immigrants there as well. But California, is really bad with our governor and who has I mean it's who has, amongst other horrible things that he has done, he has promoted the fact that illegal immigrants can have free health care here in California. Now, who wouldn't want to come to a place where you could get free health care? I mean, especially when they come from a place where the healthcare isn't all that great. Um, I mean, I don't know what else he could do, what more he could do to entice people illegally to come across the border. Um, it's like, it's you really they're really promised a lot of things. And in other places too, we'll have to talk about, well, what about in Texas? Texas doesn't give them free health care, does it?
Federal law requires public hospitals in every state to provide healthcare regardless of ability to pay and regardless of nationality. So yes, Texas does give illegal aliens free healthcare. And in August of this year, our Governor Abbott signed an executive order for public hospitals that accept taxpayer dollars to start counting those dollars. We have attributed so far $13 billion annually that illegal aliens are costing Texans. And keep in mind, that August executive order required hospitals to start counting that starting November 1st, 2024. So that 13 billion annual dollars
Mhm.
that's costing Texans out of our tax dollars doesn't even include the medical care. It is extensive. It's going to be billions and billions of dollars more, but that is federal law.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that. Well, all right. At that, we're going to take a break. My guest is Lee Wamsguns. I think that was better than the first time I tried that. And we're talking about putting ice on ice. And we'll be right back. You're listening to Dr. Carol's Couch, and stay tuned. Welcome back to Dr. Carol's Couch. I'm your psychiatrist host, Dr. Carole Lieberman. We're talking today about putting ice on ice, and now we're going to get specifically to that part of this. We can talk about so many, and I'm sure we probably will talk about so many problems with bringing over illegal aliens. And yes, it is true that, yes, America is a country of immigrants. I mean, certainly my grandparents, my grandfather uh, came from my grandfather came from Austria. My his family he came over as a little boy with his family from Austria, and my grandmother came over as a little girl with her family from Russia. And then my father's that's on my mother's side. On my father's side, his parents came over when they were little from Poland. So I am all about immigration. I wouldn't be sitting here today talking to you if they, didn't come in, but they came in legally. And not
Right.
only that, by Ellis Island and very patriotic and not only were they legal, but they came with the intention of working their tushies off so that they could build a good life for their family and to be contributing citizens in all different kinds of ways. I mean, of course, taxes, but even like joining organizations that helped the communities and so on. And so they didn't come over with the idea of taking social services, taking whatever it is that they could take. They came over with the idea of being grateful and appreciating what America is like, this freedom and the ability to follow their dreams and all of that, and to give back. And that's not what we're seeing here. My guest, Lee Wamsgans, is very involved in all of this as the communications officer of Patriot Mobile and the founding board member and executive director of Patriot Mobile Action, so the PAC as well. Now, um, let's talk about, the title of the show is Putting Ice on Ice. So let's talk about that. What does that mean? So, Lee, go ahead.
Couple of things. First, you have to come into this premise with the understanding that our ICE, federal ICE organization needs more funds. And when you start to talk about the dollars and attributing the financials better, which I think we're on a great start by, dismantling the corruption with Doge. But think of it this way, these sanctuary cities, they send a criminal to jail. The criminal is an illegal alien, so they get an ICE detainer put on them. Well, the sanctuary cities ignore the ICE detainer and let the criminal back out. From an ICE funding perspective, and Tom Homan talked about this recently, he said it's much less efficient to arrest a bad guy in public where he's hiding from ICE agents and where they're trying to arrest him on his turf, which requires a team of ICE agents, as opposed to a singular ICE agent going into a jail and taking that detained person in jail into ICE custody. So it's one of the ways that sanctuary cities are trying to slow down ICE. And the sad part about this is these are violent, criminal, illegal aliens. Let me just give you an example in New York. New York last week, a trans migrant was charged with raping a 14-year-old boy in a New York City bathroom. Okay, I will not call him or her. He is a him in a dress. Um, this trans migrant was already wanted in New Jersey and Massachusetts. He had ICE detainers in both of those states, and both of those states' sanctuary city policies let him go. He would not have been able to rape this 14-year-old boy.
Mhm.
He was just arraigned in February had those ICE detainers not been ignored by local authorities. And that is the problem with what's going on with these with these different policies in different areas. I love that Tom Homan said that, they're not going to stop us. He said, if you try to do that, we're going to keep coming no matter what. He is a all business, don't mess around. He knows the dire consequences to America. He knows, he was an ICE agent himself. He's seen the horrors of it. I mean, I think we talked earlier about me living in Tarrant County. Tarrant County, Texas, one of the reddest counties in the nation. Our sheriff, when their deputies were busting a stash house, they found women in cages in my county.
Oh,
And
wow.
when the women were asked why they were in cages, they said, the cartel, that was the people who were holding them in cages in that home, said they had to work off what they had, work off their debt for bringing them over the border. Well, you and I know they're never going to let them work off that debt, and you and I know how they're having to work off that debt.
Wow.
So it is a horrible situation, but these criminal illegal aliens have to be arrested. And these people that are allowing these sanctuary cities, they have blood on their hands.
Hmm. Yes, absolutely. There are so many cases. The one that was just recently in Georgia, the girl who was killed, she was a nursing student and she was
Yes,
killed by an illegal immigrant. And of course, Laken Riley, of course, we
yes,
know was killed by an illegal immigrant. I mean, there are so many more. These are just some of the people who became famous,
right.
but it's really happening every day all over the place.
It
by
is more often than people realize. I mean, there are thousands and thousands of cases um, in Texas. June 16th, 2024, an illegal Venezuelan alien, a group of them lured 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungari under a Houston bridge where they sexually assaulted her for 12 hours.
uh,
For 12 hours, then strangled her and dumped her body in a Harris County bayou. Now, Harris County is a very liberal part of Texas that's in the Houston area. Um, that suspect is now charged with capital murder, and those two illegal aliens from Venezuela, they're charged with that. And Texans use that as an example of a terrible example, a sad, heartbreaking example of why this has to stop.
yes, absolutely. Um, part of the, and of course we have the gangs, in New York and in Colorado. Well, yes, the
Aragua,
Nicaragua,
and they're
right.
here too. They've taken over Texas apartment complexes as well. And they multiply. Federal authorities say they multiply like roaches. I mean, you'll think you'll have six, then you'll have 600. And that's another group that's been targeted and put on planes and deported. So they're extremely dangerous. Um, I talked about these local jails actively ignoring the ICE detainers. Well, the good guys, the conservative sheriffs and police officers and counties and cities that are holding these people until ICE can come get them, that's costing tens of millions of dollars in our tax dollars. It costs a lot
Uh-huh.
to keep someone in jail.
Uh-huh.
And that's someone who shouldn't even be in our country in the first place.
Yes. Um, Also, and let's just include, one of the things, uh, that I do, a project that I've been doing since 9/11. I'm the terrorist therapist, and I help people cope with terrorism, starting, of course, with
Mm.
9/11, but then, I help people in Israel and in London and in Paris, from their various terror attacks. So, one of the things that's always interested me as far as the illegal immigrants is how many terrorists are coming across the borders and are
Yes.
not being caught. I mean, this actually started a while ago, not in the numbers that are coming across now, but it's been a thing, where they come across, they're not caught, and then somehow they're recognized later and they try to look for them. I mean, it's crazy. It's like once you get into America, it's so easy to hide in one
Mhm.
of 50 states. Once you get past the border, it's like finding a needle in a haystack.
It is, and it's really exciting to see this Doge shutting down this money pipeline, because a lot of that USAID funds that was basically an organization that was sending billions of dollars to traffic these people. There's a great movie that sheds a lot of light on this. That's the James O'Keefe's Line in the Sand. And the only place I know that you can get it is Tucker Carlson Network. That's where I watched it. Um, James O'Keefe is on his train. You can see him using his Patriot mobile phone in Mexico, or international coverage. I'll throw that in there. But the fabulous part about this is we did a red carpet for this movie and showed it. And when the movie was over, people sat in silence,
Huh.
because this movie, he embeds himself with illegal immigrants, and it takes them from this monster train, they call it the Beast, and they to where how they get across the border. But then the really interesting thing is when they get across the border, almost all of them would stand in lines, and he would say, "Where are you going?" And he would say, "North Dakota." "Where are you going?" "Georgia." "Where are you going?" And so they knew to find the bus going to their state.
Huh.
So they knew if they came over illegally, that these organizations that are funded mainly through the USAID program would take them to a facility. It goes in and it shows the millions, billions of dollars that American taxpayers are paying for these illegal migrant facilities. And it is stunning. then it takes you into New York City, and they embed themselves and walk into a hotel. And it's not James, it's another gentleman in the movie. And without giving too much away, I just want to say you walk in and you say you're an illegal alien, you don't have any papers, you get a free room. They ask if you want to travel to a state, what state, free meals, free everything. And cleaning up New York City with the probably hundreds of thousands of migrants that are living there for free. Like you said, our ancestors came over, we worked for a living, we came over illegally. That's not what's happening. And the from the welfare, the billions of dollars in welfare, the housing, the education, and we touched on already the public hospitals that are required by law to treat these people. It's staggering. You've got in Texas, we don't have a state income tax. So we support our hospital districts and our public schools through our annual property tax. And you've got lifelong Texans, hardworking Texans, getting taxed out of their homes because this is just not sustainable.
Yes, yes. I mean, I don't think people realize just how much all of this is costing. Plus, in the hospitals, if you go into a to an emergency room,
Mhm.
you're sitting and waiting on much. I mean, it's never been like this before. They're
Yeah,
just super crowded, and it's mainly illegal immigrants. And if you're sitting there with a heart attack, and there
right.
are all these, you can't even be found amongst all the people that there are in this waiting in these emergency waiting rooms.
And
It's
often
really,
they get better care than our veterans do who served our
yes,
country.
yes. I mean, it's just preposterous.
Yes.
Um, so, oh, what is happening? Um, are they, is anyone, I don't know if it's in Texas, but there was Trump originally in his first time in office. He started to build a wall and he didn't get to finish it. But
Hmm.
and I think Biden started trying to tear it down, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And what is the status of that?
Well, Texas finished a portion of the wall, but Trump is back. They're down there, and they're fixing. In fact, in this line in the sand movie, you can see where the cartels saw through the wall to create an open space. They're down there mending those, welding those back together. The wall is in construction again. And the good news is with the tariffs, we have seen in Texas across the border from El Paso, Mexican authorities on the other side of the border picking up ladders and brush and tools and getting rid of them, as a part of Mexico's president trying to stave off tariffs. So we've seen thousands of Mexican authorities across the other side of the fence helping us with the border to try to avoid President Trump's tariffs. Those, whether you like them or not, his tariffs on Mexico is a tool. It's
Yeah,
one of the tools in the toolbox. And I support President Trump using any tool he needs to
yeah.
secure our border. The border security is an existential threat to America, to our democracy, to our safety. And I totally support him using that. And we've seen progress already on the north side. Canada has offered over $1 billion to in additional helicopters, drones, more border security, because we're starting to see with the southern border closing down, we have been seeing more coming through at the northern border.
Yeah, so really Canada is giving money to, well, I mean, I know Trump has threatened tariffs on them too if they don't help. So, I love it when he's going about these things so in such a such a clever manner and not with guns. That is not r rushing to violence as the solution for these things, but really just being clever about it. Um,
Well, he's the great negotiator, right? I mean, this is a negotiation for President Trump, and that's how he wins. And it's common sense. It's peace through strength. It's the world for the last 4 years knew that America was in a weakened state, and they took advantage of that. The October 7th attack a year ago would have never happened If there was a president in charge of the United States, that would have reciprocated, and the terrorists
Yeah.
knew that we had a weak president, and they now know that America is back. Trump is back. Peace through strength is back.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Um, I see that we're heading towards another break. Um, it's I was surprised that I mean Canada is really uh, is real under um the the ruling, the structure that they have, the government that they have. It's really it's kind of like the Biden of in Canada. I mean, a
Yeah.
very weak um ruler, and so going so much woke, going so much World Economic Forum. um you know I am surprised. I guess maybe Trump did rattle their, or well, he rattled the sabers in a way, not the nonviolent sabers, to when he was talking about making Canada a 51st state. I guess that maybe did get to them, and because otherwise, I don't really, they haven't been doing much up to now to do anything to stop the migrants coming across the border. They were, and the northern border is much harder to protect than the southern border because of, what it goes through and the states that are there, and the it's not there. It's much wilder. The terrain is much wilder, and it's harder to protect against. But so I'm.
Right. I have this, what Canada offered. They came in with 1.3 billion Canadian dollars. That's 900 million US dollars for border security, with a package that included drones, helicopters, more border guards, and the creation of a joint task force. Trudeau said that after talks with Trump, that they added the fentanyl czar and
Hmm.
agreed to list Mexican drug cartels as terrorist organizations.
Mm,
So I think that's progress.
yes, that's amazing. All right, and just in time for the break. Um, we will be right back. You're listening to Dr. Carol's Couch. My guest is Lee Wamsguns. We're talking about putting ice on ice, and we've talked about that in regard to the sanctuary cities. All right, stay tuned. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Dr. Carol's Couch. I'm your psychiatrist host, Dr. Carole Lieberman. My guest is Lee Wamsgans. Has lots of titles. We're going to be talking right now. We're going to kind of switch a little bit to critical race theory. She co-founded and serves as president and board member of the South Lake Families PAC, which brought awareness to the nationwide issue of critical race theory. So let's talk about that. How did you excuse me, how did you get involved with that? What made you become involved with that?
So I'll take you back to 2020, where BLM was, marching down the streets, the George Floyd situation. And in my town, and keep in mind, my North Texas, very conservative town, it was the summer of 2020. And it was made known to me for some reason that that a local BLM high school group was wanting to get rid of our school resource officers. And could I meet? So I went to a meeting with this gentleman who said he was on the District Diversity Council, didn't know our school district had that, and that they were stormed. They were about to present their plan to the school board, and they were kind of overtaken on a Zoom meeting. Remember, back then everything was Zoom, by this group called SARC, South Lake Anti-Racist Coalition.
Hmm.
And one of their demands was to get rid of the school resource officers. Well, the person came to me because I was the one who got school resource officers, armed school resource officers, implemented into our local school district. So I
Uh,
said, what is this
Good
plan you're
for
talking
you. Yeah. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
so it wasn't like this was Obamacare. This was a 36-page plan that no one knew about. By the way, school districts try to pass these things in the summer when people are taking vacation and not paying attention. It was called the Cultural Competence Action Plan, and it had several aspects to it. I'm just going to highlight some of the top. It created a student and staff diversity police. It punished microaggressions, whether they be intentional or unintentional, verbal or nonverbal, and they wanted these microaggressions to go on permanent record and pre-K through 12, pre-K. So tell me how a 6-year-old can be punished for an unintentional microaggression. They can't even define it.
Wow.
But remember, these are the people that wrote the book Racist Baby and believe you're racist from birth. So that's who we were dealing with. Required diversity and inclusion training as a requirement for graduation. Now, we live in one of the most sought after public school districts in the state of Texas, which is saying a lot. Required social justice audits for curriculum, LGBTQ and diversity quotas, audits of all clubs, and quotas to hire based on race and sexual orientation instead of, teaching qualifications.
Huh.
And it cost the district millions of dollars. And it also created a diversity and inclusion week. When we looked into that, we realized these diversity and inclusion weeks across America are being run with free curriculum from the Black Lives Matter at School.com organization. And they are still running them in cities across America: Seattle, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Chicago, Detroit. I could keep going. Thousands and thousands. They're still in 21 states, and now they're in 6 countries. And they said it was going to cost millions of dollars. Now, South Lake, Texas, very Republican, very affluent, a lot of doctors and lawyers. But they applied for a VOCA grant to pay for this DEI program. VOCA stands for Victims of Crime Act of 1984. It's meant to provide assistance for low-income victims of violent crime, sexual abuse, victims of human trafficking, and our wealthy city and our well over 6-figure paid assistant superintendents. We're trying to use this grant to pay for this woke program in our school district. And to get and keep this grant, the administration had to create children. They had to criminalize children. They had to create a steady stream of victims and a steady stream of perpetrators in order to get and keep this grant.
Oh, wow.
I had pulled my kids out of public school. I was in private school, and I kind of thought, I'm giving up. If people in this town, when I tell them about this, don't do anything, don't show up, I'm done with the schools. And all I did before there was a Packer, before there was anything, I took like the top 10 egregious things. I hired a guy to create a landing page where people could sign a petition, and he made some commercials for me. We just put them out on social media and targeted the South Lake community. And I thought, if I could get 20 people to go to the school board and talk about this, this would be a huge win. If I get 100 people to sign a petition, it'd be a huge win. Well, within 48 hours, I had almost 3,000
Oh,
signatures
wow.
from my city. So we created an army. We didn't know what critical race theory was going into. We'd never heard of racist behavior.
Uh-huh.
Our eyes were opened, and long story short, we won our election, but that was only 2 people. And the very next week, I look at it was southlakefamilies.org. I look at my website email, and I had over 1,200 emails from people across the country asking me to train them how to do this in their communities.
Oh, wow.
So I was really, really busy, and that kind of leads to the story of how I got to Patriot Mobile, because Glenn and Jenny Story they're the founders of Patriot Mobile. We've been friends for years, and they said, we don't have a PR department. We want you to come in and create one, and we want you to create a political action committee to do all over Texas and the United States, what we did here.
Oh, wow. That's so just to make sure I understand. So you were able to get rid of the
Yeah, so the long story short, and again, that first big election in 2021 that made national news, we just won 2 seats. We didn't have a majority yet. We just kept at it and kept at it. And so today, 2025, our school district, out of 7 school board members, we have all 7 spots.
Okay, but even when you just got the first two, what were you able to do in terms of getting rid of CRT? Were you able
So
to
the first thing
win
we
or
did was to expose this program. And during that campaign, hundreds of parents went to school board meetings and spoke in public about what it was. We were attacked mercilessly. NBC News did an award-winning podcast attacking us, saying we were the most racist people in the country. We did
oh,
tons of public information requests, and we revealed to the community what was really going on in our school district. Our taxpayers were funding luxurious travel for these people to go speak and call the very town paying their bills racist, which was not true. And when we could not get a fair shake in the media, I wrote my own newspaper and sent it to every home in town to let people know what was going on. And the teachers in town were very interested to find out that we had paid a social media guy tens of thousands of dollars for a 1 hour program, a program that they were required to attend based on it was totally DEI. This guy was Ibram Kendi's spokesperson, follower. And it was really interesting because it was a lot of teachers and a lot of the parents came together. And some of our most valuable information we got from public information requests, but the teachers also gave us a lot of information.
okay, and did you get rid of it?
Oh yeah, we killed the plan. It's gone. And
Oh,
now this school district not only doesn't have any CRT in it, we have left the Texas Association of School Boards. And just last year, our school district, when President Biden tried to implement his unlawful and egregious Title IX rewrite, our school district was the only district in Texas that sued him and won.
oh,
So
wow.
that our students going to South Lake Carole ISD knew in July that they were going to start school in August without having boys and girls bathrooms or boys and girls sports teams.
Oh, that's fabulous. That does show what one one very strong lady, you, and how you managed to inform all the other people. I mean, the thing is, critical race theory is such a misnomer. I mean, it's such a fake because
Yes.
the idea is, I mean, what they want you to believe is that this is racial equality. This is anti-race bias, anti-racism, which is all very well and good. No one is for racism. I'm sure you're not. But by the things that they teaching little kids, that from little kids up, that you should feel guilty if you're white because you have white privilege, and if you're black, you should feel like like you're not good enough, or the white people think you're
Right.
not enough. I mean, it's so bad for white and black children that it's just absurd. It's um it's really psychologically devastating. It's
It
confusing.
is, it is, it is a teaching of hate. It is a teaching to judge people based on their skin color. It
Right,
is teaching people that depending upon the amount of melanin in your skin, you're either superior or inferior, and
right.
nothing could be more racist than that.
That's right. Absolutely. I mean, because when kids are born, they are not racist. Um, they like kids of all different colors, depending upon if they think the kid is nice, if they play nicely with them or, share their toys, things like that, not based on the person's skin. But then they have this CRT that teaches them, oh, if you're this color, you're that. I mean, and if you're in between, oh my God, then what? So it's really so it did create racism. It was
It
something
did.
that made people racist. And it's so strange because when you think about why would the people who are teaching us, why would they want kids to become racist? I mean, theoretically, they don't want kids to be racist, but I guess that they're just very confused about what they're doing and what this is doing. Um, it's really more that they're expressing their hate and their own prejudices into this curriculum.
You nailed it. That's exactly right. It's partially control. When you divide a people, you can more easily control them. Part of this plan was literally segregation, creating white clubs, black clubs, judging based on, the content instead of the content of the character, judging on the color of their skin. The opposite. It was certainly going backwards.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'd like to thank you, Lee Wamsguns, for all of the work that you do. I mean, you were saying also about how now you're going around the country giving lectures about all of this, how what you accomplished in Texas and how they can accomplish it in their schools, which is really what parents need to take their schools back, and of course, Trump did sign executive orders to help stop boys playing in girls' sports and so on. I mean, I mean, it's like
And DEI. He signed the
and
DEI.
and DEI. And I mean, things that and saying that there are only two sexes in
Yes,
America, boys and girls, and it's not based on prejudice, it's just biology. Uh,
right.
so, yes, I think we're going in the right direction in any case, but we need your continued help because parents don't feel empowered anymore, and they need to feel empowered to address these things in their own schools, in addition to what Trump is doing on the national level. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on Dr. Carol's Couch, and thank all of you too for listening. This has been Dr. Carol's Couch, and this has been a show on putting ice on ice. And I hope you're realizing it's not about prejudice, just like with CRT. It's not about prejudice against people. It's about, wanting to stick to the law and sticking to biology and sticking to not having racism or prejudice. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Lee, again. And I'll be back with you all next week.